Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webinar of YaSemoseuropeos. This time to talk about one of your biggest questions, the generalist competition. Because finally it looks like it's coming. Those are the excellent news that we have to share with you. Okay, before we continue, let me allow me to present myself. My name is Inigo Cruz. I'm part of the YaSemoseuropeos team, and I will be your guide through this new adventure of the Journalist Competition 2025. So, how we are going to do it? What is going to be the focus of today? As I mentioned, only generalists. If you're looking for other competitions or comments on any other competition, just look other webinars that we have in our channel, or simply write us an email to look for that information. And of course, the presentation I'm using today on this webinar also will be available. Check the comments on this video to see where you can download it. Okay, hope this is clear. Rules are clear, so let's go for it. How we are going to talk about all this about journalists and this excellent news. First of all, short recapitulation on what's going on in a bit more detail. Then, where should they start from? What are generalists do in case you are completely new on these competitions and you want to know a bit more what is going on in the role of a generalist of the European Commission or the European institutions? What test? What are the tests? What are the exams that you need to overcome in order to become a generalist, in order to be part of that reserve list that it's produced at the end of the competition? So we will talk briefly about the application, the reasoning test, the written test, digital skills, and the MCQ, multiple choice questionnaire on new knowledge. And then how long is the process? Do you know? Any idea? Well, continue with us and you will get an answer. Oh, and of course, last but not least, the most important question for you is probably when should they start preparing the exams? How much do I have to study? How many hours do I have to spend studying? Yeah, that's a question that we hear a lot. And of course, as a complementary answer to your questions is how we can help you from YaSemoseuropeos team in order to succeed in this adventure, in this new competition. This is it. This is the plan for today. So in order to gain a little bit of clarity, let me else at the same time turn on my camera so you can see better the PowerPoint, the presentation. Let's go for it. So what's going on? Well, this is the current picture of the situation. This is what is going on. We see that there are some competitions that already happened. Even more excellent news. We got the results from the transport competition. It ended satisfactorily. In fact, we didn't put it there, but we should say that many of our candidates passed this competition and now they are part of the reserve list and they are looking for their place in the European institutions to become officers, 87 officers of the European Commission or the European institutions. So that's super. But probably, what about me? I want to be part of them. So, several opportunities ahead. First of all, in May, we have the opportunity for lawyer linguists. As we speak, when we are doing this webinar, is still open another competition for lawyer linguists for different languages. So we invite you to check on our webinar dedicated to this competition to know a bit more about the test and what to expect. Then in June, there will be a new competition regarding different profiles in 87 level on project management in the building sector, architecture, and building services engineering. So that's one thing. And complementary, there will be another competition for ASTs on communication. This is interesting because if you remember a couple of years ago, the famous AST 144 that was cancelled, now this is on. This is back again, this competition that we have. And of course, last but not least, in July 2025, meaning we expect end of July, we will have generalist. So this is our expectation. So far, based on the input provided by EPSO, looks like this is the most feasible calendar, and we can count to have our beloved generalists once again with us after maybe too many years without this competition. Let's leave it like that. Okay. So let's continue. What about the expectations? What else? So where should they start from, right? What does a journalist do? Because yeah, you just came to this webinar and you're wondering, okay, a generalist. That sounds nice, sounds general, but what's the purpose? of a generalist. What is this for? So, well, then ask yourself the following questions. Do you want to work in international institutions? I mean, the European Union is a regional entity, European, but yeah, it's international. There are 27 member states, and also you have relationship with many other states, so that's why it's international. Do you identify yourself with the European project? Meaning the European Union, its values and its history is not only a pure bureaucratic entity, but something that is a political project behind. So you need to somehow identify yourself with this goal in order to be fully at ease with it and with your work. Then, do you want to work away from home, most like in Brussels or Luxembourg? We're assuming that if you're listening to this webinar, you are not native from Brussels or Luxembourg, but from somewhere else. So most likely, sorry, but you will have to move to these two cities to work for the European institutions. There are some exceptions. There are some other possibilities, of course, but let's assume the most likely scenario. Okay, do I want to work with other cultures? Sorry, I'm a Spaniard. I don't know if I am able to work with these people from this country that are a bit stubborn. These other from this country, they are selfish. Oh, look, they consider me something else. I mean, if that's your kind of approach, maybe this is not your place. But if you are interested in the idea of, oh, I really would like to work with people from Germany, from Poland, from Italy, from Portugal, from Spain, from Greece, to exchange, to see what they love, what they hate, what is the working culture, how they do things, get the most of this cultural exchange, of this melting pot, this is your place. The European institutions will guarantee you this cultural melting pot of workers of different origins, with the beauty and the challenge that it brings, a positive challenge it brings. Then another big question you have to ask yourself: work on broad topics and learn new things continuously. I mean, if you think that once you are working in the institutions, in the European institutions, you are done, you don't have to learn anything new. Okay, maybe once every 5 years, something. No, I mean, you're in the wrong place. Expect a career where every day is different, where every day you will have to learn about new procedures, new applications, of you change your position within the institutions that you want to work in. No, you were working in energy and now you move to work in European employment policies. And then a few years later, you want to move to fisheries. And then some few years after, you start to work on agriculture. So changing different topics every time. That's fantastic, but at the same time, force you to a continuous learning attitude. So you have to be ready for that. And last but not least, are you willing to work hard? Yes, working for the European institutions is rewarded a lot. We can assure you that. But at the same time, it's hard. I mean, it's not something that you can just spend the whole day drinking coffee and doing nothing. Just the contrary, just the opposite. So you need to be ready to work hard. So if the answer is to all these questions is yes, please continue with us. If you don't see yourself answering yes to any of these questions, think it again. Maybe the European institutions are not your place. So, but well, let me assume that you say yes to all of them. So we can continue. Let's explore what this career in institutions can bring to us. So about what this career can bring to us and about the places for employment. I mentioned before the Brussels and Luxembourg were the main place. This is not a gratuitous sentence. Just look at the numbers. We are taking only as reference the numbers of the Commission that proportionally is equivalent to the rest of the institutions. And we see that between Luxembourg and Brussels, it's almost 3 out of 4 workers of the European Commission work in these two cities. Yeah, 66% more or less. So 2 out of 3 work in Brussels. So you see that. And then you have 11%, 3,600 workers of the Commission who are not working are working outside the European Union. meaning in delegations. Remember that the European Commission has more people working abroad than the External Action Service. So in case you need some numbers to understand this, here you got, because the External Action Service got around 3,000 staff members working abroad, while the Commission is 3,600. And then, but yeah, there are another 3,300 working in the EU, but not in Brussels and Luxembourg. Indeed, most of them will be working in ISPRA. It's in the north of Italy, nearby Milano, and there is a research facility there. So where there are hundreds of EU staff working there, as well as in other centers like in Gil or Sevilla or Karlsruhe for the GRC, Joint Research Council. So that's it. And then there's small communication offices all across the European member states, but only very few dozens of staff members work there. So again, if we want to work for the European institutions, we better assume that we will work in Luxembourg and Brussels. If we really want to work somewhere else, it can be done, but it won't be easy. So we need to be very determined. So okay, hope this is clear. Yeah. So this is about the where to find the jobs. But what about what to do? Because look, I'm a researcher on biotechnology. No, look, I'm a lawyer specialized on competition law. No, look, I'm an auditor. I've been auditing for 20 years. No, look, I'm an IT specialist on artificial intelligence. All these profiles have a place in institutions. I mean, it doesn't matter what is your background, provided you know how to take advantage of it, that you know how to use it in advantage of your job or your position. So if you're an expert in communication, there are a lot of communication departments. IT, of course, IT is nowadays a must and something where staff is needed with the expertise, science and research. I just mentioned that we have hundreds, if not thousands, of people working at the GRC who do research every day. Auditors, of course, you need to audit all the programs, all the budget of the European institutions that serves to feed the different European programs. External relations, well, Commission, External Action Service, and many other areas that deal with external relations. Law, languages, of course, translators, interpreters, plenty of support the staff as well. Not everybody is doing high policies. Some others are taking care of the buildings of the Commission, that the machinery is running smoothly. Human resources, someone has to manage all these other profiles. So, and of course, there are many other profiles that are not here in this picture that have a place there. So, whatever is your profile, whatever is your background and knowledge and expertise, think that there is a possibility in the institutions. Yes, you just need to look for it. There are some profiles that are more common than others, true, but all of them have an opportunity in the European institutions. So never think that you don't have an opportunity. Look for it. It will be there. This is the key message that we want to share with you regarding the profiles, the different profiles for the European institutions, and especially considering from a generalist competition perspective. Then, some other aspects that we should bear in mind, probably some more interesting than others. Well, first of all, the fact that you will need two languages for this competition. Remember, one at level C1 and another B2. Which languages? English, French, German? Well, it doesn't matter. Nowadays, under the new model, it's two European languages. There are 24 official languages of the European Union. Can I bring Chinese as one of these two languages? No, Chinese is not an official language. But English, yes, is an official language of the European Union. French, sure. Spanish, sure. Hungarian as well. Bulgarian, too. Not big deal. All the information will be in the notice of competition. That's another thing that is always a must that you have to read carefully. As well, another question that comes quite often from many of you, and we want to share with you, is the fact that you can take part in different competitions at the same time. If you're participating in generalists, not big deal. I mean, you can participate in other competitions. And so don't worry about that. As many as you can, provided you fulfill all the criteria. And then about reading the notice of competition is important that you bear in mind that for when it's an 85 competition, usually you only need a university degree. You don't need working experience. When it's an 86 competition, you need 3 years of relevant experience. And when it's an 87, you need 6 years of relevant experience. These are generic requirements. Sometimes they may differ slightly, and it will be described in the notice of competition. And of course, if it's not generalist, it's another competition. Yes, look for our webinars, look for explanation, because we will, with pleasure, explain you about the requirements and the different situations. And last but not least, the salary. You can see your croqueta with her flag, just raising your attention on this topic. I mean, an 85 officer who just joined the European institutions nowadays is earning a net salary about 5,500 euros. What you see on the table is gross, but after you discount taxes plus the expatriation allowance and some other factors, it more or less stays quite similar. So it's around 5,500 euros. But depends on your country of origin. I think it's a pretty decent salary to start your career in the European institutions. Let's not forget that you have some assistance, extra assistance for children, family, and some other extra or complementary elements for your salary. But it's overall, but good news. But what else? We have mentioned about the place of work, the task, some conditions, the salary, but there's one important lesson that you need to bear in mind when facing an EPSO competition, and especially generalists. You're great candidates. We from YaSemoseuropeos, we are certain that you have a great knowledge, a great experience. Even if you're starting your career, your CV is quite strong. We have no doubts about it. But bear in mind that this is a process that is open to the whole Europe, the whole citizens of the European Union, provided they fulfill the criteria. And this is a process that has to give fair opportunities to thousands of candidates. So no matter how great is your CV, no matter how great is your experience, the EPSO, the entities in charge of the selection process, they don't have time to appreciate it. They cannot distinguish if you are a truck, a penguin, or not. No, you have to go through the same process, all of you. I'm afraid this is part of it. But I can offer a great knowledge on a specific topic that nobody else has. That's excellent. That's super. But if you're going through a selection process for the European institutions, this is a process that should be the same for all of you. So accept that. You have to fit in the process. The process cannot fit into you. They cannot customize your selection process to your strengths or your strong points. No, you have to adapt yourself to the reality of the selection process. So be careful with this. Remember, please, this is very important, because also we have seen that many candidates got some frustration because of this, because of the lack of understanding that the process couldn't adapt to them despite their all the positive aspect or strengths or skills or knowledge that they could bring to the institutions. This is important. You have to adapt to the process. You will have to fit in the process. This is important to remember. Then, okay, we have seen what's going on. Good news, July this year, we expect generalists. What does a generalist do? Where you can start to think about your career in the institutions, but how is it going to be the process? How I'm going to be selected, right? Can you tell me a bit more about it? Sure, that's what we're going to do now. So, first of all, when we start to think, we think that we will apply to this competition, we need to bear in mind one special item. That is, there is a new portal, this new single candidate portal that is designed for your application. Maybe you've been familiar with the EPSO competitions in the past. There was the EPSO portal. Now this is the single candidate portal. So be careful, because this is a completely different system. I think it's easier. It's more variable, more easier to manage by the candidates, but still it's new. So some of the um, of the support information, non-official support information that you may see can be outdated. Be careful with that. So always go to the EPSO official web page and look for the official information up to date according to this new portal. Because if you find some contradictions, some contradictory information regarding the application portal, just because there's been a change in the last few months. So pay attention to this detail. This is the single candidate portal and the one that you are supposed to use. So what about that? But of course, before we continue filling in our application, remember, whether it's generalist or any other competition, read the notice of competition. I mean, this is a must. This is something that you absolutely have to read in order to know the rule of the game. Simple, yes, but necessary. Yeah, I know that this is not your favorite part of the competition, that you think that it may be boring. It's not. It's useful because not all the candidates read the notice of competition, and that will give you a honest and quantifiable advantage compared to other candidates. Let's work now on how it's going to be the exam itself and the test. We don't have the notice of competition, true, but EPSO has provided quite a lot of information regarding the new test, so that's why we're going to share with you. So EPSO has told us that you will have the reasoning test, classic, verbal, numerical, and abstract test. Not big deal. Then on the review of the 24 official languages, you will have a written test. In particular, your written test will be what is being called the free test essay on EU matters, UFT, where they only assess communication skills. Although they call it free test essay, so far experience tells us that it's not such an essay, but a written test, asking you for an assignment or particular task in connection with a document. We will see a few more details later. And the digital skills. So this is another test that will be, that's the third test that you will have. Third test, considering verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning as one single test called reasoning test. And then a EU knowledge part. Okay, a multiple choice, 30 questions probably about EU institutions and EU main policies. Do you want to know a bit more about all this? Let's continue. Well, before that, and going back to the portal, remember to check on new careers, the portal of your competition. Here we took transport screenshot, but the day that generalist competition is there published, remember to visit that web page because you will have the indicative calendar, you will have video explanation, you will have plenty of information and extra resources from EPSO. So take advantage of them. Don't miss that opportunity to use this free material accessible to you. Then, once we have done on the portal, check on the portal, remember to check about the languages and how it's going to be the distribution. Here you got an example of a typical competition that is happening nowadays. We have the reasoning test that is language 1, the field related, and the written test is in language 2. How it's going to be for generalists? Very likely reasoning test language 1, EU knowledge, MCQ test, probably language 2, same as written test. And the digital, we don't know yet if that will be on language 1 or in language 2. To be seen. What we know for sure is that language 1 and language 2 can be any of the 24 official languages. They never can be the same. In fact, in the application, it's impossible to select the same language as language 1 and language 2. And usually as a reference, but you don't have to provide any document or any certification on languages. Language 1, they will ask for a level C1, C2, and language 2 will be B2, C1 on the European framework. Shouldn't be a big deal. And all this information will be reflected in your application. Hope this is clear. Then on the application itself, this is the typical look for an administrator, where you will have the opportunity to upload your CV, your experience, your education, your training, and also the portal will let you know what are the elements missing As we mentioned before, this new portal is quite comfortable for the candidate and quite useful. So, yeah, um, don't be shy and use it. Don't be afraid of changing to, because we think that this change is being for good. It's been positive for all of you. Then coming back to the reasoning test, and now just going a bit deeper on them. About the thresholds, how many points do we need to score to pass the competition? Well, that will differ on each competition. In generalists, we don't know yet because the passing score differs from one competition to another. That's different. Here you got an example where verbal was 10 out of 20, but the mix between numerical and abstract, 10 out of 20. Maybe generalist will be the same case. That's why we took this example. But also remember one thing, experience tells us that between 25-35% of the candidates fail in this test, in verbal reasoning or numerical and abstract, in any of these tests, we should say. So just be careful. I mean, don't treat this part of the competition lightly. Take care and pay close attention, because for generalists, it will be a tough reasoning test in order to eliminate candidates. I'm afraid that this is part of the deal. If you have thousands of candidates, so how you have to get rid of many of them in the process. I'm afraid. So hopefully you're listening our webinar, listening attentively to what we are talking, won't be one of them, because now you're aware, you will be prepared. But many others who will miss this opportunity probably won't be so prepared as you. And now talking about each one of the tests of reasoning. Well, first of all, verbal reasoning, a classic. You get a text on top for options, and you have to select the right one according to the text that you got above. So, what's the idea on this exercise? So, to measure your ability to understand, to get information, the written information, and to elaborate and work with it. So your capacity to interpret this information, and it's important that you are capable of working with this, that you read the questions well, that you don't assume information that is not in the text, that you don't allow EPSO to cheat you and to lead you to a path that you don't want to be. Okay, so be careful. If you want to know more in detail about the verbal reasoning or any other reasoning test, just visit any other videos where we have extensive explanation about the verbal reasoning, numerical and abstract. But for the moment, this is it on verbal. On numerical, same themes as ever. So you got a document, text, table, graphic with some inputs, numbers usually, and you have to be capable of selecting the right input, the right data from that table, from that graphic, in order to solve the question that you've been assigned. Okay, so for this, you don't need to be a genius of the mathematics. You don't need to be Isaac Newton or Leibniz. No, you just need to be a regular person who knows how to do fractions, percentage, divisions, multiplications, simple equation of 1 degree. I mean, meaning x equal to 3 plus x, something like that, or minus x. So how much is x at the end, right? So these kind of things. And the rule of 3. So yeah, very basic rules, very basic rules that will allow you to to solve the problem that you will get in front of you. By the way, if you want to see the solution of that problem that you see on the screen, just click on the solution to the problem here and you will find it. So your guess is on our YouTube channel as well, the problem solved. And last but not least, the abstract reasoning. So, I mean, it's as simple as you see. I mean, this is a series of frames, squares, where you have some signs, some indications, some instructions, some logic in form of objects, arrows, different geometric figures. Usually, it's can be on color, but in a color blind is adapted, so it's monochrome between white and black, or a kind of pale color that is easy to distinguish. And you will have to look for the rules. You will have to search the logic in order to find which is the sixth frame that is the right element. It's important that you isolate the different logic, that you are capable of distinguish what is the logic of each element all across the 5 frames in order to select the sixth and correct one. Again, we have more information in other videos on this reasoning test, so we invite you to visit them. So just recapitulating a little bit on reasoning, because as we told you, it's a test where 1/3 of the candidates will fall, and we don't want that for you. We want you to pass. So important that you get familiar with the environment. It will help you to relax, to calm before the exam. So it's always useful. Remember that, especially for numerical, the calculator doesn't have the solution. Meaning the calculator is a mean, is a tool, but it's not a hidden system to find the solution of your problem. And then another thing that you have to do is think fast, act later. So don't try to rush yourselves. Try to it's a step at a time. Because if you rush through the reasoning test, not good. Reasoning requires some time. That's why it's about reasoning. It's not about numbers. So don't or about language. Not I'm very good in this language. I will do great in the verbal reasoning. No, I'm not good in with numbers. I'm not good in mathematics. I'm not going to make some who's going to be helpful. No, not at all. It's about reasoning. So reading carefully, and that's it. And connecting to that, to reason, to be capable of thinking clearly, you need to be calm. You need to be relaxed. If you panic, it's the worst thing that you can do. So careful with that. Okay, very, very careful. Then we are moving to the next exam, to the written test, or essay of the free text essay on EU matters. We call it written test rather than essay because, despite the name provided by EPSO, evidence so far tell us that it's written. It's not a free thought. Write for 40 minutes your opinion on a topic, rather than summary, a briefing, a note, a concept note, fulfilling a specific task for a specific audience, rather than a free text essay. So we find the name so far a bit misleading based on our experience with the current competitions already have taken the exam. Okay. But important here, important is the anchors that appear on your screen. You see, those are the official marker points where you collect your score, where you can increase your chances to pass the competition. So important here, as they indicate, right, concisely, meaning that it's not about quantity, it's about quality of your exercise. You present the subject matter in an understandable way. So remember, don't make it too complex. Keep it short, simple, to the point. You need to showcase that you understand what you've been asked and that the reader can understand what you have written. You adapt to the audience. If they are telling you that you're writing a text for general public, it's not the same as you're writing a text for specialists, for lawyers. The style of text will be completely different. And also you will use the information provided by EPSO in the document. So don't try to invent anything or try to be the smartest guy in the room. And then, of course, make sure that your text is logical. This is very, very important. And if it doesn't, it's not visible when it starts and when it ends, not good. Not good for you. Important to know about the essay of the writing test. You will take this exam with the other text at the same day. Small break between the different tests, but you will get the document to this exam 2 weeks in advance, more or less. You won't need any external knowledge. It's all, everything will be in that document. It's about communication. So you don't need to prove that you are the news expert if you're writing this exercise in English, and you can use any other language as well. It's important that you follow the instructions that you are given. Sometimes people say, no, they're going to ask me about doing whatever. No, they didn't ask about whatever. They asked for a very specific task, not for whatever. So pay attention to that. Remember that you will have to handle a lot of information and to know how to work under pressure. Using a lot of information and working under pressure is part of the daily life of any officer in the European institutions. So this test makes sense for you to see how your reaction to real life challenges. Important to know that you work in an interface that is quite basic, so there is no autocorrect, no artificial intelligence helping to complete the sentences or paying attention that your sentence makes sense. So be careful with that because it's pretty basic interface. And the exam will be 45 minutes or 40 minutes. That will be indicated by the notice of competition. So be careful because time flies. I mean, experience tells us that 45 minutes, 40 minutes feels like 4 minutes, no more than that. So be very, very careful with that. That's why we insist that it's very important that you practice. Also, and this is short duration, because to remind you that in the other competition that has happened so far, the written test, it was linked to the area of the competition. And that's a big difference with the generalists. Generalists will be a generic text about European policy, European institutions, so not connected to a very specific field. That could happen that you choose a field where you are relatively familiar. Well, super, good, great for you, but no need to showcase your knowledge. Remember, it only assesses communication, same as for other specialist competitions. It only assesses communication despite the fact that the document was linked to the subject of the competition. So don't get misled with this, okay? Just be careful. And remember, you can do this exercise in any of the 24 official languages. Hope this is clear. Then, as a recap on the writing and the say, first tip we can provide you, practice. I mean, yeah, sounds silly, sounds like there's not a shortcut. Can I do more with less? No, I mean, guys, practice. That's the trick. That's the thing. Be careful that when you know that you have the competition coming and there's more or less a likely date for the exam, be certain that you book some time, some hours, or you liberate some hours before the exam to practice this writing test. So be sure that you have some 3 hours to do that. Remember, whatever is the topic is not a problem. It will be the same for all of you, for all the candidates. That's it. I mean, and practice more. I mean, again, yes, I know I sound repetitive, but well, believe me, this is very, very important. You practice for the 45 or 40 minutes exam. It doesn't matter if you're 40 or 45 at this point before you have the notice, but start practicing. See how you react in such short time, because this is the only way to deal with it and to produce a good text in that time. Because there's another rule that we always mention, that remember that in 40-45 minutes you cannot do perfect. You can do great, you can do a great exercise, but never perfect, because I mean the conditions are impossible to make it perfect. So, but you can do great, and that's more than enough to score the points that you need to pass the written test. Okay, hope this is clear. But then, after the written test, what else can we find? Very simple. Digital skills. The digital skills are is a new test. It didn't exist before, and it will be about questions about your knowledge on the typical of informatics, on the typical IT that any one of us knows more or less. So you don't need to be Bill Gates. You don't need to know how to code a new artificial intelligence. No, but you need to know what is a browser, what are the basic features of safety or security in digital environments, or how to use the email, These kind of things that nowadays are basic in our daily jobs. But you need to think about it. You need to check to be sure that you know how to perform the different tasks with a computer. This is it about the digital skills. Not big deal. To be precise, so it's following the scheme of digital competencies, digital skills that are divided in these 5 areas. So the questions in your exam will be selected from these points, from programming, from copyright and licenses, but in a very basic mode. I mean, you don't need to, as again, you don't need to program code or when protecting devices. What are the basic measures to protect your laptop from virus, for instance, or from being hacked? This kind of things. For instance, don't click on links of unknown origin, or don't click on files that are marked point X that execute automatically. These kind of things. So the map of digital skills is simple. It's there. We know it. You have it now. And you have a few examples from EPSO webpage. And eventually we will upload a few more in our blog as well. So you can practice more on this part. And then few advices, few tips for digital. Check what you know. I mean, you know a lot about computers, about using the laptop and using IT environments. The only thing is that probably you didn't stop yourself to think about them. How should I do it? Or how do I save a document? Ah, wait, I click here or I click this button. Or how do I know how to compress a file? Oh, how do I? Ah, yeah, I click the right button. I use this app, and this is the name of the zip document, and these kind of things. And of course, if you are using Apple, you're using Macintosh and Apple environments, be sure that you get familiar with Windows Office environment, because that will be the reference. From there, you can use the most common programs and tutorials in order to get familiar, to review any element if you want to study a bit on it. I mean, again, this exam is not a secret. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal if you prepare correctly. That's the thing. Well, that's for advice on digital, but last but not least, the knowledge exam, the multiple choice exam. So, not this test is not new in the sense that it has appeared already on several specialist competitions, although for generalists it's the first time. On external competitions, remember that these competitions already been taking place for several years in the internal competitions of the European Commission. By the way, there YaSemoseuropeos we have a lot of long successful experience on the internal competitions and on these tests, so we are not afraid of it. The advantage for the external competitions is that EPSO committed a couple of years ago that they will publish a theme in a book or kind of syllabus with the sources of information. That was EPSO said. Are they going to do it finally? We hope so, but we cannot promise. In any case, for studying this, it's always better to go for quality rather than quantity. So at this moment, it's the best option in order to prepare ourselves. We expect that there will be 30 questions, 40 minutes, more than enough. Only one correct answer. And if there is any other rule or any other indication, that will be in the notice. Because sometimes these multiple choice exam have some short variations from one competition to another. That's why we cannot provide more insight until we have the notice on this particular test. Regarding the sources to study, I mentioned that EPSO will publish a booklet or something according to them. But there was 1 year ago in the internal competition, they published a list of materials to study that you see now on your screen. Not big deal, but some of them they already got outdated. Although the first one, the priorities for the political priorities, not in 1824, but 24, 29 are the ones that you are supposed to study. The Commission Work Program 2024 and 2025, that could be it. Or the European Union instead of 2023, now the European Union in 2024, that it's been published a couple of weeks ago. No more than that. So, but just to give you the contrast, that was 1 year ago. There was the list of topics. So still you can study some updated elements. Insisting on them. The treaties, of course, I mentioned before, but yeah, in the treaties you will have a lot of information, especially the Treaty of the European Union that marks the classic and the most fundamental rules. The European Union website for political priorities, that's a must. I mean, that's something that you should get familiar with. In case you are a bit lost, you don't know what to do or where to start, ABC of the EU law. Yeah, go for it. Remember that you can click on the link of this presentation and go to the documents. If you want to go deeper on the policies, on the European policies and all the details, the facts of the European Union Parliament are very helpful on that part. And of course, last but not least, 2019-2024 summary. These are materials that these summaries are coming from the first Commission von der Leyen, that they produce at the end of the mandate some documents recapitulating all the doings, all the achievements from the Commission or that first term. So these fact sheets or these summaries are quite useful in order to have a comprehensive approach to what has been done during the last 5 years. I think that to create a consolidated base of knowledge of the European Union policies and institutions with these documents, you have more than enough. Of course, I mentioned before the Commission Work Program 2024 and the one 2025, but that could be a complementary element. You just can Google it and you will find it. And then let's do a short recap after seeing what are we supposed to study for the exams. So remember carefully, you need to read the secret document. And the secret document is called the Notice of Competition or Notice of Vacancy or the Vacancy Notice. Because that will tell you the task that you will face, the requirement, languages, task, and any other detail that you are supposed to know. Believe me, they are not secret doors, they are not shortcuts. As simple as that is the notice. The notice that contains all the information that you need. But the only thing that we need to also ask you is to be patient. I mean, don't expect to read the first time in any of these documents and understand all the details. It requires some rereading in order to get familiar with all the small letter of this. But once you become familiar, it's done. It's good because you have a great deal of advantage compared to any other candidate. That's why it's so important that you pay attention to these documents. And I think this is the third time already I mentioned the notice of competition, but please, people read it, study it, because yeah, it will give you a great deal of advantage for all of you. But now, the following question is how long is the process? How long is going to be the whole generalist thing and the whole competition, right? I mean, because I don't want to spend my whole life on this, right? I want to do other things, right? Fair question. So let's see. If we take an example from the initial competitions, we see that there is a speed up on the competitions and the time that is taken between the closing of the submission period and the exam. So now is that in average is 1 month between the closing of the submission and the exam itself. We saw it last time in tax, in direct and indirect tax competition, that it's 1 month, 1 week more or less between closing and the exam. So yeah, don't think that you will have plenty of time between these two. So the moment you get the notice of competition published, c'est parti, as they say in French. It's the beginning, start. I mean, you're supposed to be studying before, but from that moment, focus, focus, focus. I mean, don't think, no, no, don't worry, I will have plenty of time. No, you won't. That moment, it's just the right time. So that's why we insist, be careful and don't think that you have many months. You have enough time, yes, but not time to squander. So that leaves us on this situation. So we have the application, the candidacy of your um, on the competition, that it will give you one month and a half to apply. Then you will have the exams, reasoning test, knowledge, MCQ, digital skills writing test, that it will give you after the closing of the application period, between 1 and 2 months, depends on how the calendar is. It will be online and the same day for all of you. Then the exam of correction and verification of requirements can take between 4 or 5 months so far we've seen. In the transport competition, remember that the exams took place on the 25th of September and they got the results at the mid-March. So you got the idea. And then you will get a reserve list after more or less 6 months is the closing date of the applications. That reserve list will be valid at least for 1.5 years. In fact, for transport, it's been valid for 3 years. So those are excellent news. Okay, so yeah, you can assume at least a couple of years for your list. And from there will be a manual selection process, interviews, probably structured interviews for an institution, for a job vacancy on an institution. Don't worry, if you are standing with us, if you are one of our candidates, not a big deal, because we offer permanent webinars and seminars on what to do once you are in the reserve list. But you need to focus on being in the reserve list, on pass the competition. We will help you done later with the interviews. So, but yeah, I mean, you have seen how long is the process? So 6 months, but for the exam, I only got 2 months, 2 months and a half, 3 months max between the call, the publication of the call, of the notice, and the exam. So, can I start preparing earlier? How many hours? Or can I start later? How can I do it? Right? So, but let's play with some scenarios. So it's the first time that you are preparing an EPSO competition. You are completely new. You are a rookie on this. So when the date of the publication of your competition is announced, meaning when the EPSO says, okay, generally it's going to be published in the 25th of July. So yeah, but usually they publish this 2 months before. So meaning May, June, they will say this. So that's a good moment to start to work with, especially start with the CBT, computer-based test, reasoning test. Get familiar with this test, and then also preparing reading on the essay. You can look for the examples on the EPSO webpage and also reviewing the European sources. Once the notice of competition is published, let's say end of July, so at that moment, full throttle, full engine. So you practice all the tests, multiple choice, essay, digital, computer-based test, reasoning. You start verifying all the topics and sources for the knowledge exam, especially if they have provided any extra information. Of course, when the submission period of the application has been closed, remember to practice every week a full exam. Every week, not every day. So you get familiar with the type of exam, you get familiar with the different requirements needed for the exam and how extenuating, tiring it can be. If it's not the first time that you've been in an EPSO competition, you're already a veteran, let's say, you know the deal. So you're going to start 1 month before the publication of the competition, the notice of competition, to prepare yourself, to review, to do some reasoning, CBT. And then when the notice is published, like everybody else, full steam, start working on it, of course. And it's better to, yeah, now that you will have only a few months ahead, it's not a long period, you can work hard on it. rather than get lazy. So very, very important to work on that. And then regarding the number of hours, so as we mentioned before, 5 to 2 months before, you can study between 3 6 hours per week. Then you're moving in time and you're coming close to the launch of the notice of competition. So you increase the time to 7 8 hours, especially if you're rookie. If you're a veteran, 3 4 hours is still fine. But once the notice has been launched and you know the deal, then things get serious and you have to increase the number of hours per week. Per week, remember that we always say quality before quantity. Yeah, no cell phones, no distractions, and working hard on that part, hard on quality. So, and once your registration close and the application period is closed and the exam is coming, so yeah, it's you have to do your max. I mean, there's not much time left for it, and always be sure that you learn from your own mistakes. This is the important thing. I mean, it's not a question of doing right everything now, because then the day of the exam things can go differently and you make mistakes. This question of making all mistakes possible now, learn from them, so the day of the exam you don't make any mistake. It's a completely different approach. Yep. Last but not least, the latest question: how can we help you in YaSemoseuropeos? Let us to introduce the YaSemoseuropeos Adventure. So yeah, because I mean it's been tricky how the generalist competition has gone through the last years, how it's been blocked, and we couldn't do prepare more. We couldn't apply. We can become candidates, so it's been quite frustrating. But now, not anymore. Generalist is coming, and that's why we have launched our training to help you to, in a few months, get ready for the generalist competition. So with our methodology, we think that in 5 months, you will be more than ready for the competition. I mean, and only studying by a few hours per week. Again, we insist quality before quantity. How we are going to do it? So with a limited study group on weekly sessions and dedicating each session to one of the tests, one of the aspects that we want you to focus and we want you to learn or study. Okay? And also in this training, including all the tests. So verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning, knowledge, written, and digital. So all of it will be in this training that in 5 months will put you in the right spot to have a strong chance of succeed in the generalist competition. How we are going to do it? What we propose? So we propose you our own material. We propose you our own reasoning exercise so you can practice. And usually our reasoning exercises are far more difficult than the real ones, but it's good because that guarantees that you candidates pass that part that I mentioned before. It will be tough. So practice through essay exercises. So you master the time, you master the difficulties of the written test. We will also offer you 4 written tests individually reviewed with individual feedback only for you based on the inputs that you send to us throughout the practice. Of course, we will offer you as well several tests with hundreds of questions on digital skills, so you can practice and review all the different aspect knowledge that we think is more likely to be there, and exercises on new knowledge with study guides and more than 1,500 questions to practice before the exam. So all this, one session per week, all the sessions will be recorded, so you are not going to miss anything in case you cannot connect, and with plenty of practice. So you get at the end of September, beginning of October, that is when we bet that the exam will take place, at 100% of your capacities and strength in order to succeed in this competition. So, and this is it from our side. I mean, we hope this has been clear. This has been interesting for all of you, and you have understood a bit better how it's going to be the new generalist competition and If interested in our new training formula, this YaSemoseuropeos Adventure, in order to get ready for the generalist competition, don't hesitate to contact us. And of course, please remember that in the meantime, we have plenty of other materials, resources in our blog, in our YouTube channel, and our social media with free explanations of reasoning test, with with other examples, specific trainings for specific tests as well, application review if needed for some other processes. So all this is offered by YaSemoseuropeos, and of course, let's not forget to visit the different other resources that you can have in order to be up to date on the reality of the EPSO and the European institutions competitions. So this is it. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for listening, for watching this video. We stay in touch. See you. Bye bye.